All right. Hello, folks. Today's word is squeak. Made me think of the Tin Man, which took me to Iron Man and War Machine. It just felt like drawing something like that. So, yeah. Let me quickly post to Twitter that I'm doing this. Well, that's interesting. Nobody in the live chat. All right. Well, that's okay. Still people that watch this when it's archived. All right, live streaming for Inktober. Oh, here's some folks. Hello, Keith, TARDIS Rider, and Nintendude. Oh, Rat King from TMNT. That's a cool idea based on Squeak. I like that. I like that a lot. Hello, Mike. Be with you guys in just a sec. And I got a fairly hard out in about an hour and 10 minutes. I really need to leave tonight, so I really only have the hour, unfortunately. Just going to try to do as much as I can in that hour and answer as many questions, have as many conversations as we can. So, start in one moment. That's good. How's everyone doing tonight? Hello, Brendan. Hello, Anja. Hello, Cheney Rabbit. Look at all these wonderful folks. Thanks for all coming in. Appreciate that. Nice to see everyone. I know it's probably kind of weird that I'm always looking off to the side in my camera and that I can't like really position it well to be on my face. You know, I'm trying little things as I go on. Like for instance, I've zoomed in more on the artwork so that you can really see the work. Hopefully. Okay, and I'm really hot in my sweatshirt, so I'm taking this off. Hello, Aldi. Yeah, go to bed. Nice to see you, though. There we go. Oh, that's much better. I was getting really hot. Whew, oh. 3 a.m. Wow. Hello, Shirley. 2 a.m. We got some folks in Europe. Wow. That's pretty cool. So at first glance, War Machine and Iron Man have very similar armor, but if you actually examine it, there are tons of subtle differences. I have pretty detailed Hot Toys action figures of each of these guys, so I was able to get some pretty good reference for this. And I'm going to mostly focus on the War Machine since he's in the foreground. And if there's time, I'll move on to Iron Man. Oh, good. I'm glad that Bill likes those pickles. That's so nice to hear. Nope, pickles are some actual pickles that I bought for Shirley and Bill today. Today's prompt is Squeak. made me think of the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz, and then I decided I'd rather do sort of a modern day version of that, aka Iron Man and War Machine. So that's what I'm doing. We'll see how it goes. Keith has a pretty lengthy Halloween reading list. I've read American Vampire and Scalped out of that list, at least those. I'm gonna sneeze. They're slightly spicy, Mike. Haven't seen Thor yet, Anja. It comes out for us in America. It comes out in a week, so we get it a little later than some of the other folks. Looking forward to it. I hope it's good. It looks funny. I don't mind some humor in today's day and age. A little bit of a depressing world, so some humor is much appreciated. Thank you, Shirley. I really need something PR, someone to draw. I'm feeling very uninspired lately. After Jack from The Shining, I can't think of anyone else. Hello, Jesus. Yeah, inspiration is tough. That's why I've basically been following these prompts from the sort of official Inktober list. It can be hard to just continually come up with ideas to draw. Boy, it's surprisingly warm in this room that I'm in today. It's been cold, but I guess today must have not been the coldest day. So I am feeling pretty warm. Oh well. So, anybody get up to anything interesting today? Using your weekend in a... Oh, it's not the weekend, Jesus. Wow, my internal clock is way off. Wow. I almost thought it was the weekend for a moment. Jesus says he was listening to the 60s Iron Man song. Those things are catchy. Pretty silly, but catchy. Janie Rabbit says, been catching up on my Hellboy books since my video of the Hellboy tropes. Watched it with my son, and now he started Seeds of Destruction. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Hollow Nano joins us, and Chrissy. Any Halloween traditions? No, not really. I like Halloween quite a bit, but I wouldn't say that I have any real traditions. I'd love to uh, always have candy for trick or treaters and decorate the house, but the place I live now and the place that I lived for like almost 10 years before this, we just didn't live in a neighborhood with lots of families, so we don't really get many trick or treaters, maybe like five tops. So, haven't really had any ongoing traditions, but I do love the holiday. I mean, I try to watch a little bit more horror movies, but I love horror all the time, so I don't know that that's that different than my normal uh, life. How about any of you out there? Any Halloween traditions? My sister tends to throw a party every year, but or at least most years, but she's in a different state, so I don't get to go. I've never been able to make it up for just a Halloween party. Maybe someday. Today was a Cymbalta kind of day, says Keith. I don't know what Cymbalta is. Milos says that he played the whole first Riddick game and half of the second. I don't remember which one it was, but Escape from Butcher Bay. That was actually a really good video game, I recall. Probably better than most of the movies. Sigamig says, "Are you gonna get that new South Park game?" Probably not. I did play the last one, but and it was good, but just don't really feel like I've got a lot of discretionary income for video games right now. So that one probably falls by the wayside. Um, yeah, if I can afford a game, I'm leaning more towards Super Mario Odyssey tomorrow. I hope that one's good, but I have faith. Nintendo's first party games are usually pretty excellent. I also, as far as video games go, I'm always addicted to the what do you call them? The various Lego games. I find those very relaxing in their own way, and I always want to get a 100% completion on those. I think there's a Marvel one of those coming up in a few weeks. But yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to afford it or not. Probably not. Been playing a lot of Destiny too, because I already own that one. Cheney Rabbit says that Halloween isn't quite the same here. You might get 2 or 3 groups knock on the door each year. My kids were really disappointed because Halloween seems cooler in films than anything around here. Yeah. Growing up, Halloween was huge. I grew up in a small town a little south of Boston, and it was a big deal. Like, just went to as many houses as possible, and everyone was prepared with lots of candy. It was nice. I loved it as a kid. Trying to think of like when I stopped trick or treating. What age are you when you sort of stop that? So I think I did it like 1 year where I felt like I was maybe a little too old, like might have been 6th grade or something like that. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't really be doing this. I think that's what I did it. Aldi says, no love for poor Pepper Potts. Well, the idea came from like the idea of a Squeak, and it amused me to think of these guys with their high-tech armor having a Squeak. So it wasn't like trying to be inclusive or exclusive about characters in Iron Man. I was just thinking of those suits. How it would be funny if they were all squeaky. They only let kids go out from 5 to 7 here. There is no Halloween anymore. Well, it depends on where you live, I guess, as to how safe that would be. Yeah. I remember our parents were always nervous about us going trick-or-treating every year. Does anybody have a favorite costume that they had when they were a kid for Halloween? I'm trying to think of mine. Obviously, I was really, really young, so it's hard to remember most of them, but I do seem to recall that I went as a Smurf one year and Winnie the Pooh another. That is a mistake. Aldi points out that I could have included Pepper Potts in her rescue armor. That's true. I I grabbed these guys, my Hot Toys figures, because I knew I could have the reference. I didn't think that in comics, Pepper Potts does have her own suit of armor. You're right. Come back to that. Yeah, I can't really remember. Oh, you know what? I think I went as like just a generic sort of robot one year by putting aluminum foil on. Well, I didn't do it. My mother did it because I was so young. But she put like aluminum foil over a cardboard box and affixed all sorts of dials and stuff to it. My mom was always pretty good at arts and crafts. Of course, that meant that she would try to like fix things around the house with just like whatever was lying around, duct tape and glue and loose pieces of 4x4. She would make all sorts of makeshift things. Have I played Breath of the Wild yet? Yes, but not very far. I just have not had a lot of time for gaming, but I have played it. It's gorgeous. Keith Thomas says he's drawing a squeaky mouse in a field with mushrooms. That sounds cute. TARDIS Rider says Squeak makes me think of a scene where one character is sneaking up on another and the floor squeaks. Yeah, so I could have actually done something kind of Halloweeny and horror if I had thought of something like that. Like Michael Myers coming up behind someone. I don't know, but did not occur to me. Cheney Rabbit says, I went trick-or-treating once as a child, came back with a bag of 2 peas. Everyone else just ignored us. 2 pieces, maybe? Yeah. Or 2 pence? I don't know what that means. 2 peas. There was no Halloween here in Germany when I was a kid. It only started like 10 to 15 years ago. Huh. Yeah, I guess the way we do it here in America is relatively unique. It's interesting. But then we show it in all of our movies and stuff. So. Hello, comic book guy. Thank you for joining us. Cheney Rabbit says, just got back from Germany. Literally no sign of Halloween in any city I went to. Interesting. Aldi bought a pumpkin and will start carving this weekend. We have to do that too. Chrissy, if you're still in the chat, we have to carve those pumpkins this weekend. That's pretty much our last chance. Shirley got Chrissy some beautiful pumpkins. we'll carve them just in case we do get any trick-or-treaters, and then Chrissy will roast all the pumpkin seeds. She loves pumpkin seeds. Let's hire someone to carve them. Yeah, maybe. TARDIS Rider says no Halloween in Korea traditionally, but now it's always a big party event with college kids. Always interesting to see like what groups pick up elements of other cultures. It's evolved into a massively promoted holiday here in America. It's got to be the second most promoted holiday after Christmas. Uh, I mean, there's no question Christmas is the biggest, but seriously, it's like Halloween rolls around and you just see costumes, candy, and decorations everywhere. They try to time Halloween themed horror movie releases, and uh, you know, I won't be surprised if we start hearing a bunch of novelty songs in a year or two. It's uh, it's pretty crazy how huge Halloween is becoming. Every year it gets bigger, it seems. But yeah, it's a big money maker. Nintendo says, "Why do you like horror movies? I love them for the slasher and his design, or in some cases, how they go mad and start a killing spree. I love psychological stuff like that. Always interested in me. Always interested me. I like horror movies because it lets us sort of control our fear because it's in a safe environment, more or less. I think that that's the appeal. And then I like different types of horror for different reasons. You know, if it's a psychological thriller, that's both a mystery and telling me something about the human condition, whereas, you know, a slasher is just sort of escapism. Like I'm just looking for like novelty and thrills and stuff like that. Interesting design. So yeah. What else are people asking? You Americans stole our Oktoberfest, and now we have taken Halloween. I don't think we do Oktoberfest anywhere close to what Germany does, but I will admit I love Oktoberfest. I love some German food, music, of course the beer. I mean, uh, I like it all. Like Oktoberfest, I would love that to take off and become an even bigger sort of holiday for us over here. I would dress up in the lederhosen and jump around. Uh, yeah. Great festival. I love some sausage, pretzels. I love that food. Yes, please. Yes, please. Keith Thomas says that he's trying out a Prismacolor brush pen. Those are cool. If I was rich, I would have so many nice pens and tools. There's some really awesome stuff out there I wish I had. That would be so fun to have like every color, like an entire Prismacolor brush set. Oh yeah. Comic book guy says, what is the dumbest comic that everybody seems to love? A dumb comic that everybody loves? Boy, that might be too that might be too subjective. I'm not sure if there's that many popular comics that everybody loves that we can all agree are dumb. Hmm. It's an interesting question, but nothing leaps to mind as something that everybody loves that I'd consider dumb. I have trouble like thinking of that many comics that are universally acclaimed. I mean, the first ones I think of are always Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. Then I think of something like Mouse, and then I start going like, well, what else is like universally acclaimed? And I start getting stumped. But if anybody can think of like universally acclaimed comics, ones that consistently get mentioned whenever there's an article about comic books or something, then let me know. Like, what comics am I not thinking of that are always spoken of in like reverential tones? Spawn, kind of. Fun Home? Oh, Sigmix, are you saying that you don't like Fun Home? Because I think that's a. Or are you just saying that that's an acclaimed book? Because I thought Fun Home was pretty fantastic. And I agree with you, Keith Thomas. Mouse is quite good. Uh, Aldi says, I like the Spider Man Clone Saga, and that's pretty dumb. Yeah, I think that that's sort of like the opposite. Oh, Morgan Moore asks, first Halloween costume you remember? Well, my memory for this has been aided by the fact that my sister keeps really good family photo album records. She shared this one with me a couple of years ago on Facebook. It's me in kindergarten, uh, dressed up basically like a robot. I was talking about that costume just a little while ago, where it's basically just like a big cardboard box to form the body, and then it had sort of dials and stuff put all over it. My mom must have fashioned that out of whatever we had lying around at the time. I never really had store-bought costumes. I mentioned earlier that some of the costumes I wore when I was younger included Winnie the Pooh and a Smurf, and both of those were things that my mom sewed together. Oh, Winnie the Pooh! When I was that was even before kindergarten, actually. So Winnie the Pooh was, in all likelihood, the first costume that I was put in as sort of a baby. Not sort of. I mean, I was a baby. It's time to come to terms with the fact that I was once a baby. Unfortunately, yeah, I was once a baby. It's hard to admit, you know. They're weak, they cry, they just need lots and lots of help. But I was once one of those. TARDIS Rider says that they watched my Captain America Wolf episode today. Great episode. Are you familiar with Drunk Captain America on Comic Geek Speak podcast? Hilarious. It's on YouTube. No, I am not. I am not familiar with either Drunk Captain America or Comic Geek Speak. So I'll have to try to remember and look that one up. Oh, Comic Book Guy says one of his earliest was G.I. Joe was mine. I had a plastic shirt that said G.I. Joe on it so dumb adults would know who you were. Yeah, that was the era of costumes that I grew up in, too, where, you know, if you got a Star Wars costume, it would have, like, or be sold, I should say, because I never had one, but it would be sold with a Darth Vader mask, just like a half mask, not a full helmet, and then your shirt would say Star Wars and like have like a drawing of Darth Vader. And it's like, that's not really a costume. Um, that's cool, Morgan, that your mom helped make you guys homemade costumes. That's nice to hear. That was definitely yeah. I don't think growing up I ever had a store bought costume because I'm trying to remember the things that I was, and it was like a vampire. And I don't remember them all, but I definitely don't remember ever having my family go to the store and buy a costume. Like that does not ring any bells for me. I don't think we ever did that. Cheney Rabbit says, don't know if anybody likes Joe Rogan or Tom DeLonge from Blink 182, but there's a crazy podcast just released 2 hours ago, cringy yet amazing. Tom is insane or has taken something. I definitely went through a period of time where I liked a lot of Blink 182 stuff. Adam's song. That one sticks with me for some reason. Turn it. Oh wow. I just took a look at the clock to see how I'm doing on time. I'm feel like I'm going kind of slow on this guy. Should have chosen something like the Rat King, but then you know what? Then I'd get lost in all the details of all tons and tons of rats. That would have been my temptation. I just like that idea. Who was drawing that? Like Keith Thomas? I forget. Was that you that's drawing a Rat King? I like that idea. It's a good interpretation of the word squeak. All right, bye, Shirley. Thank you very much for stopping by. Chris, do you remember knockoff toys as a kid? I had lots of those. You know what? I first of all, I probably didn't have that many toys as a kid. Like, by the time I was in high school, my family was doing very well, but before that, we didn't have tons of money. So, um, I didn't have things like Nintendo or cable growing up. Um, uh, so I didn't have many toys per se, and you would think that maybe that would mean I'd have a higher likelihood for having knockoff toys. But instead, I think it just sort of meant that I was way more selective about what I would ask for, and my parents would pay pretty close attention. So, yeah, I didn't really have any knockoff toys, but they amuse me tremendously. Last year, I was up in Vancouver, Canada, and I found in a dollar store a Transformer knockoff that I absolutely love. It's a dolphin that transforms into a robot, and his name is Bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty the War Dolphin. Uh, so that was a dollar, and I was like, yeah, of course I'm gonna buy that. All right, I screwed up here. Uh, Sigamig says, ever watched a bootleg movie that came in those plastic baggies? And Cheney Rabbit says that dolphins are vicious. I'm not sure that's true. Um, I've bought bootleg movies. They never came in a plastic baggie. This was still the day of VHS, and when I would go up to New York, I would sometimes buy the latest movies that were out, like Blade or something. Yeah, I mean, you know what you're buying. It's a crapshoot as to whether it's even going to be viewable. But I would sometimes get a bootleg movie. Rarely. They never came in plastic baggies though. They were always just in like cheap cardboard sleeves. I would swim with dolphins if I was at some sort of hotel or resort that offered that as an opportunity. Um, yeah, I think that would be a treat to be able to swim next to dolphins. As long as they were not treated inhumanely, then I wouldn't want to support something like that. I would think it would be a treat to swim next to dolphins. I saw killer whale today. Uh, just driving along the water, and there's a black fin sticking up in the water. Kept my eye on it, and eventually we could see there was also a bulbous forehead in front of it. So it was an orca. That was pretty cool. That was a treat. Hmm. Is War Machine giving Iron Man a piggyback ride? No. If I'm able to define this some more, you'll see that like Iron Man's leg is going down here, and then his second leg would be here. Anyway, yeah. Just trying to give this all a little bit of depth. In the Philippines, the local markets always had bootleg movies with hilarious random covers. That's cool. I would be interested to see those. I have about 20 more minutes that I can give to this drawing. Hopefully I can start giving it a little more depth. We'll see. Nintendo tells a story about seeing a fin while he was at the beach and he started freaking out, but it was some dolphins. Yeah, I wouldn't be scared to be in the water with dolphins. There'd be a small part of me nervous about swimming with an orca, but I think I could sort of like rationally tell myself that they're good to people. I think. Janie Rabbit says that he or she saw a killer whale driving a scooter. Sigamig says he saw a bootleg copy of Toy Story 3 that had the F word all over the subtitles. Wow. TARDIS Rider agrees with that, saying, I once got a DVD of 2001 with Leslie Nielsen on the cover in Korea. Keith Thomas says, do you remember the saga of the Serpent Crown and the origin of Marvel Universe 616 from 1989? There is a scene that somehow passed the comic code. Yeah, I remember both of those things, but I'm not sure what you're talking about that passed the comics code. That doesn't bring any bells off the top of my head. I don't know what I'm forgetting. I'm definitely curious what you're talking about, Keith. Trying to think, but I definitely don't remember anything controversial about the saga of the Serpent Crown. And when you say the creation of 616, maybe we're talking about different things. I guess I was thinking of the Alan Moore Captain Britain stories where Roma names their dimension as 616, but maybe you're talking about something else. Gaia getting busy with the demerge producing Adam. Huh. You know, I guess I'll have to reread it. I don't remember that. Wow. My memory is going. Forgetting all this super valuable comic book trivia. I'm sure if I saw a page or two, it'd all come back. But for whatever reason, right now, it's not coming to me. Sorry. Sounds interesting. What was the best comic or sci-fi convention you ever went to, and why? That's what I'm asking to you folks. I'm asking a question. You're always asking me questions. I'll try to come up with more questions for you. But I'd be curious if a particular Comic Con stands out in your memory for any reason. If you don't finish this before your time's up, will you complete it at a later date, or does it remain incomplete? So far, the things that I haven't completed have remained incomplete. I've played around with the idea of just randomly streaming, like kind of way earlier in the day to just work on a previous thing for the heck of it. But so far, I basically just haven't had the time to do that, unfortunately, but that's something I'd like to do. I'd like to sort of finish these, but I also feel like I shouldn't really work on it if I'm not streaming. Like that, there's almost an accountability level there. Just some weird arbitrary rules I'm making for myself. I don't know if anybody would really like find me if I did this during sort of non-announced hours, but I'd still be recording it, and so people could watch it like later at their own time. It would get archived. So I might do something like that. Nintendo says, I've never really gone to any major conventions, but I went to a really stupid comic book event. Its literal name was Comic Fest, and not a single comic book in sight, not a single one. Just kids. Royfield Brown says, I'm struggling to remember the name of the Iron Man artist of the early 80s who really drew him as metallic. Are you thinking of what's his name? Like the Michelini run. Who was the artist for that? Was it Bob Layton? Is that the name? I think it might have been Bob Layton. Tell me if that name is the one you're thinking of, Royfield. Um, Janie says, don't really get conventions here. London is the closest, but that's only close if it can drive. I'm physically closer to France than London. They probably have cool art conventions. Yes, they do. They have the biggest one in Angoulême. That is a more of a festival than a convention, and boy, would I love to go there someday. The whole town celebrates comics. My friend Jason Latour got to go to the last year's, and it just, wow, looked beautiful. I think my friend Tony Moore went one year, or maybe more than one year. It looks pretty wonderful. I would love to go to Angoulême. Royfield says it was Bob Layton. Cool. I thought every once in a while I can remember something useless. But yeah, I thought actually he had a really good run on Iron Man, him and Michelini. I thought that, I mean, what, Armor Wars? Uh, I think Demon in a Bottle was them. It was around that era anyway. That was one of Iron Man's strongest. looks like based on the rate I'm going, I'm not gonna be doing any of the details on Iron Man. We'll see, but not looking good right now. Aldi says I should just finish all these drawings in Inkvember. I like that idea. It's maybe. I don't know that they're all worth finishing, to be honest. I think some of them, if I was doing like for an actual book, I would have hit a certain point where I said, "Oh, this isn't quite coming together. I need to restart it," or I just would have scanned what I had done so far and continued the artwork digitally, because I do kind of like drawing digitally, but it does produce a different looking result. I mean, it's still my style, whatever style that may be, but it's I do think it's a little stiffer. I think when you're working with pens, you just end up with little mistakes and flourishes and line weight changes that you don't quite get as much of when you work digitally. Uh, just my opinion. I am hearing a ton of kids out there right now, like more than just a few kids yelling at. What is going on? It's so dark. TARDIS Rider says, memorable con story. In 1985, age about 17, I met Julie Schwartz in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I asked what it was like meeting H.P. Lovecraft, and he said he wished he'd remembered. I didn't realize that Julie Schwartz had met H.P. Lovecraft. Interesting. Wow, that you get to meet some older DC Comics sort of royalty there. That that's pretty cool. Probably something not too many comic book fans today could claim. Congrats. All right, I definitely coming up on the tail end of my time tonight, unfortunately. Because I'm actually kind of having a lot of fun with this one, and I'm having fun chatting with all of you. But Chrissy and I bought some movie tickets, so yeah. I meant to get started a little earlier, just too busy. Oh, the comic tropes this week. It's not like it's going to be necessarily all that long or involve any like weird special effects. It's just involved the most research I've ever had to do, like the most planning on how to approach what I want to accomplish. It's a busy week for that. It's also worth mentioning that I actually did a bonus Comic Tropes episode this week, but it's a Patreon exclusive. So if you're one of my patrons, you've possibly seen it already, but yeah, it's only for patrons. So it's private. But that's something I like to do every once in a while when I can, is fit in a little something extra for the folks that are supporting me like that. Minimum level is just $2 and you get access to that. It's not content that I do every week, but when I can, I do. I'm going to try to do some more. Schwartz was Lovecraft's agent back in the day. No kidding? That's interesting. All right, see you, Nintendo. Chris, have you thought about giving your Inktober drawings away to your patrons? I hadn't, but I probably should. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll probably do that now that you say that. Got all these drawings that I've done. There's nothing else I can do with them. Not really. So yeah, I'll probably send out a survey to my backers, and if they decide they want one, they get one. Thanks for the suggestion. I like that. All right, I should go. Unfortunately, I'll just do that to define his. Boy, I kind of smudged a couple areas. Unfortunately, that's too bad. And I think I'd drawn the Iron Man better than I drew War Machine, but that's about all I can do for tonight. I appreciate everybody joining me. I'm going to try to probably get on streaming like some morning. So, if you have any interest, definitely remember to check that sort of bell shape on my channel. That means that you'll get alerts when something new is posted, including a live stream. I'm sure some of you have already done that, but not everybody is aware that that's a thing you can do with YouTube. There's a little bell on the main page that you can click, and you'll get an alert. So I probably will, as soon as I've got time, do some extra live streams to finish existing drawings. And if that's something you want to do, be sure to give yourself an alert. All right, I appreciate everybody joining me. I'm just going to fill in this last area with black here, and then I'm going to sign off as soon as it's done, which it almost is. Love the questions, love chatting with everybody. Hope your week is going well. Blah, blah, blah. I got to start coming up with material, have actual jokes and stuff. But I don't right now. So until next week. No, until I see you next. Keep reading comics. All right, bye all. You're great.